Hi everyone. Hello friends. My name is Ajay and I'm recording this video on a request of one of my friend who wanted me to make this video on Power BI. I'm a software engineer. My specialization is in data engineering and I'm working for a Fortune 500 company as a data engineer. So in today's video, my goal is to teach you how to use Power BI, and I'm going to start everything from the scratch, and my goal at the end of this video is to make sure that you understand the power of a Power BI. So to get started with, once I move it to Power BI demo, and today we will be seeing mostly on this would be the agenda, that what is Power BI, what are the different components we have in Power BI, and I will show you how to install Power BI, how we can get data inside the Power BI, and we will do some kind of like a data cleaning inside Power BI to just get started with. So this is going to be a very introductory session, and for me, I'm qualified enough to talk about this technology because I have been using heavily this technology at different projects, and I am a certified Power BI data analyst. I have completed PL 300 certification. So so first thing to get started with, you may ask, what is Power BI? So Power BI is something, uh, to give you just an example what Power BI is, right? In Let's assume that you buy a product at Amazon, right? And Amazon wants to analyze the data and create a report. So, for example, Amazon has customer name. So they have customers, and they buy a product name, and then Amazon has the information about where their customers are, right? So this is like the customer country. So this is the customer country, and um, then Amazon wants to capture amount spent by customer. So here, let's say that one of my customer is Alex, and then he buys a product called Apple iPhone. Similarly, he's from US, say, and then he spends $200. You know. Then we have a customer B. He again buys a laptop, which is Mac, and he belongs to. He's from India, and he spends $1,300 on buying the Mac. So imagine we have some scenarios where a company has a huge amount of data, and now the company wants to know how many from which country their most of the customers are coming, right? They want to know what which country is providing them like the maximum revenue. So so their goal is to find out from which country they are getting the maximum revenue, so that they can build a business strategy. So this is just a simple use case. So, in the old days, when the Power BI was not there, what the data analyst used to do is take the data in Excel, and then uh, clean that data and then prepare a kind of a report or a dashboard. But right now, in the market we have a tool called Power BI. So it is a tool that allows analyst, business analyst, data analyst, and business decision makers to analyze some data and then prepare a report, uh, prepare a dashboard. Because at the end of day, company wants to know what what are the processes they can improve and how they can generate more revenue. Correct. So for that, Microsoft introduced a tool called Power BI, which is a game changer, and that is what we are going to see today. So to get started with Power BI, let me not save this. So do not save. So Power BI, to get started, Power BI is a tool that has allowed a business analyst or a data analyst or any developer to connect to the data, extract the data, analyze that data, and then generate the report. So if you look at this window, if you look at my slides right now, on the left hand side we have data that is coming from different sources, right? So some cases, right, sometimes we have our data in Excel, sometimes it will be a database. Maybe it can be a SQL database. Sometimes we are getting data from Salesforce. Sometimes we are getting data from the browsers or Facebook. So with the Power BI, the benefit is Power BI provides all the connectors where you can connect through all the data sources. That's the beauty of Power BI. And we will be seeing in detail once we go inside the video. So the most important thing to understand is Power BI has like how the Power BI works, right? So to understand that, we will be understanding something called Power BI components. So inside Power BI components, we have three things. So the first one is Power BI desktop, which is over here, you can see it. And then we have Power BI mobile app, and then Power BI service. As an analyst, as a data analyst, as a business analyst, we would be working most of the time on Power BI desktop. So what we do as a data analyst or business analyst is get the data from the source inside Power BI desktop, clean that data, and then once you have cleaned the data, then we have to transform the data because in that as an end user, they don't want to see all the information, so we have to transform that data. And then once it is there, then we create the report or dashboard, and that report or dashboard can be shared among team members, among organization through Power BI services, or we can create an app in Power BI mobile app. So in today's session, we will be mostly focused on the first component, which is a Power BI desktop. So you may ask, what is Power BI desktop and how we can use it, right? That's a valid question, and I will show you in this video how efficiently you can use Power BI desktop. So first thing to note that is Power BI desktop is free for personal users. So if you want to learn Power BI, if you want to learn how to analyze data, if you want to learn how to build the report, you can download a free version of Power BI from internet on your laptop, and you can practice it. So to do that, first what I would do is open the browser over here and go to google.com, and here I would be searching Power BI desktop, Power BI desktop installation, right? Or Power BI desktop download. So we want to first download and then install it. So I want to download it for Windows, right? I have Windows. So once I click there, I go to the first link, which is the official website of Microsoft. I click it here and I just click on download. So once I click on download, I get two options over here: Power BI desktop setup 64 exe or Power BI setup exe. So since I have a 64 laptop, so I would select this option. So if you have 32 one, then you can select this one and then click on download. So now Power BI is downloading right now. So now it is downloading. Meanwhile, what I can do, what I can do is I can tell you how we are going to explore the capability of Power BI desktop, how we are going to analyze the data. So, for example, let's assume that you are working in a company called maybe Pepsi, and there in that company, we have a HR who wants to track what softwares their employees are accessing and whether those are secure software or not, right? So for example, in a company, people might be using softwares from Microsoft, software from Google, and they want to make sure that they are providing access to the right software. So we have to analyze that which software, like which vendor or software company has less number of security threat, and that we are going to analyze today using the Power BI desktop. So for that I have a data set. So if you are new to Power BI, the data set is nothing but, if you are new to the Power BI, so data set is nothing but this one. So let's say that if you are having, if you data set is nothing but a collection of data. So for example, if you have data, collection of data, right? So it can be any employee data or a customer data, correct? And then so once we have the employee or the customer data, so this data needs to be stored, right, in a different format, correct? So let's say the format is Excel file, right? Or it is in CSV format, or it is coming in a text format, right? So these can be three formats, or if it is coming from the database, right, then it will come in the form of tables. So in today's session, we will be mostly focusing on when we have data in Excel, how we can get that data from the local machine into Power BI and how we can analyze that. All right, sounds good. Okay, so now I will what I would do right now is, since I have downloaded the Power BI, so it is inside my download. I go here, and you see here, right? I have a Power BI desktop. So what I would do is I will run this as an administrator. So if once I click on yes, it runs, right? And then here I have to select the language, which is English language. And then here all I have to do is just click next, and I accept the terms in the license agreement. Click next, and here it tells me the path where it will be installed. So in my case, I'm going to install this inside C program files Microsoft BI. It's by default, I'm not going to change it. Click on next, and since I'm going to use this tool very frequently, I want to have a shortcut on my desktop. So I click on install. All right, so far so good. Cool. And now I will close this downloads window. So now it is updating installation. So once installation is successful, then we can get started. Meanwhile, I want to let it install. So its status is showing copying new files. It takes some time because this software takes around 3 GB. So if you are using any laptop, you need to have at least 3 GB of space if you want to run this software. All right. So you see at the end, status will be changed to complete, and then we can use this. Meanwhile, what I can do is I can go ahead and show you the data set which we want to explore it, right? So let it copy. I want to make it simple, so that everybody can, guys can follow it and learn from this one. So that's where I am not going too fast. I'm trying to go at a decent pace, making sure that you are understanding each and every component. So it will take another minutes or so to complete it. So I would wait, and then meanwhile what I can. Okay, great. So installation was successful, so I would click on finish right now. I will close this desktop and then go here. All right. So yes, and then what I would do right now is this. I will, for a time being, I will close this my slides and get into the actual business. Once you so you saw that, right? I installed it and I launched, right? So I have two ways to launch it. So since I have got like mm, the this one, I have a shortcut. From here I can um, launch it, and once we have launched over here, so this is kind of a home window, right? uh, well, I like the dark color, so that's why my theme is on the dark. You have an option to change if you don't like this dark theme, right? You can go ahead and change it. That would also work, but I won't do that right now. So let's get started, right? So once I click on the content view of the URI, well, no, I don't want to do that. So let's say that I want to learn it from sample data, okay? And here, what we can do is close this one. So this is the home page of Power BI desktop. If you look at the top, you have an option to import data from Excel, import data from database, which is SQL Server, and we have a lot of other stuff which we will be seeing one by one when we go deep inside the tool, but not today. So today my goal is to just read data. So for example, before I get data, I want to show you like which data we are going to use for this demo. So for that, once I go to Power BI demo, and then I have a Excel sheet. And don't worry, I'm going to upload these Excel sheet into my GitHub repository. So if you have access to GitHub, you can use that, or else I'm going to upload on the Google Drive. I will share the link of Google Drive in the video, the YouTube video description, so that you can access this Excel sheet, and you can do the same thing which I am doing right now. So I would recommend you two things. So the first one is, I would recommend you to watch this video first until end to end, and then one time, and then second time I want you to just take all the data what I'm doing here, and then practice on your laptop. So this is an Excel sheet which we are going to explore. And if you look at this is a Excel sheet, and it has a lot of columns, right? But this data is very not very clean. And before analyzing this data, we have to clean this data, right? So for that, we will be using the Power BI desktop. So, so the first step, once I go to Power BI desktop, so the first step is to get this data, right? As I told you that we will be getting this data. So to get the data, there are few things you can do. Either you can click on this import data to Excel, or I would recommend you to go get data, and from here click on Excel workbook. So once you click on the Excel workbook, then it gives you a path like it asks you from where you want Power BI to read that file. So in my case, I have data, let's say on desktop, or maybe this is the data. This is the Excel sheet. So I click here and click on open. So now it is getting data from the laptop. And if you are familiar with Excel, right? So in Excel, what happens in Excel, we have workbooks, right? One inside one Excel sheet, we have different workbooks, correct? So we are not going to use all of them to get started with. So let me show you this. So for example, to get started with, what I wanted to show you is this one. Like if you look at this one over here, you know, it has data for, there is a tab called all, then 2000, 202, 2022, 2021. So what we will do today is we will just grab this data which is inside all tab. Okay, so I will close this and go to the Power BI again, and to select that you have to click on check here all, and then you have two options, right? Either to load that data or to transform that data. So as I said you that first we will be getting the data and then we will be transforming the data. So once you click on load, it will load that data, but it will not let us clean the data. Okay, so for that I'm going to click on transform, right? So I'm going to click on the transform. And here, if you look at this right now, so this is a home page of something called Power Query Editor. And don't get confused right now. There are a lot of technical terms which I will be explaining you one by one. Okay. First thing first is we got our data from Excel workbook, and it has a name called all. If you want to change that name, what you can do is click here, right? There are two ways. So first you can click here and rename, like you know, exploit, or maybe browser data. Okay, so that is the one query what we did, right? So the first thing first is like whatever steps we are doing inside Power BI in Power Query Editor. Power Query Editor is nothing but a platform where you can remove, like for example in data, if you want to clean some data, if you want to remove some column or some rows, right? Or you want to do some manipulation on the data, everything can be done inside the Power Query Editor. Okay, and whatever steps we are doing, so what Power Query Editor is doing is it is capturing over here. Okay, so right now we have not done anything other than renaming this one, right? So if you look at this data right now, you see the column names, column 1, column 2, column, if you look at the first row over here, the first column is exploits, and then column 3, column 4. So this data is not correct. If you look closely, this first row, this can be our first row. Okay, so for that what we have to do right now is, what we are going to do right now is make this row as a column. So for that what we would be doing is we go here, right? So we will go here, and let me close this. Okay, so we will go here, and from here we have an option to select first row as a header. Okay, so we will use first row as a header. Okay, so this is the first row, CVE vendor. So this will be our header. So you have to click here from use first row as a header. So you have to click use first row as header. Perfect. So we did that, right? And let's say that if you want to like undo that, right? Then you have an option. You can close this one inside apply step. You close this one. Okay. then we got again the same thing, right? Okay, so we have, now we have the column name. If you see here right now, we have like CVE column, we have vendor column, we have product column, we have type column, we have description, right? And then we have data discovered, data patched, advisory, analysis, URL, reported by, and column 12. So if you look closely on this data, this column 12, right, we don't have any data, everything is null, correct? So it is occupying this column 12 is occupying extra space. So this is of no use, right? So you can remove this column. Okay, so you may ask how we will be removing the column, correct? So for example, if you want to remove 5, either one column, or let's say that we want to remove 5 column, correct? So once we go here on remove columns, right? So here they are asking which column we want to remove, right? So for example, let's say we want to remove this column, right? So you can either go here and click on remove column, or if you want to remove other column, you can click on remove other column, right? So that is the one way. The other way is once you select this whole column, right click and then remove column. Okay, so you can remove this column. All right, now we have removed column 12 because that column was of no use, and you see here, right, that is getting captured over here. If it is getting complicated, don't think about this one right now. Okay, and at this point we have, so what we did is we removed column 12, and then now we will be checking what are the other problems in the column name. So if you see, this column name is good, this is good, this is good, right? And then if you see right now, this column called advisory and this column called analysis URL. So these two column, in these two column, if you look at the row value over here, this row, this row, this row, all the rows, right? Then you see that they have the URL, correct? Here also in analysis URL, we have the URLs. So what we can do is rename this column, right? So to rename the column, there are two ways to rename the column. So the first one is to click here on the column name and click on rename column. Okay, so that is the one way you can do. The other way is, once you clicked here, double click here, okay, and then we have to rename it. So I want to have this as a advisory, URL, because I want this column and this column name to be consistent. Okay, so I am at advisory, right? We have renamed the column. So that is the one way to rename. For example, once we remove this, we can rename this way also. Okay, so I want to rename from here like advisory URL. Okay, perfect. So we kind of renamed the column. So now at least the column names are good. Okay, now the question is, you may be asking, in some of the columns over here, data discovered, right, or analysis URL, why there is a question mark, right? So I feel like this data is missing, that's why they have the question mark. We can get rid of those data little later. Okay, so once we have renamed the column, right, then we can think about doing further step, right? So assume that, as I said you, that we are solving a business case where, like a company, right, where a company wants to know that so if you look at this Excel, right, so here what happens is, like the HR of a company wants to know which are the softwares, which are the vendors, which vendors has the product which is more secure, right? So for that case, right, what we need to do is, like, our end result, right, should be type, and then we want to have the vendor, like what is the error type, what was the security threat type, right, and then vendor, and then how many, like for that particular vendor, how many security threats were there. So our end goal is to get the data something like this, these three columns out of all these columns. Okay, so here, like, let's say in the type, we want to know the type of error. So for example, if it is memory corruption, right? So it is memory corruption, right? And then here vendor is Apple. Okay, so how many time memory was corrupt when a user used any product from the Apple? So let's say it is 5 times, right? And then let's say that we have a different value, I guess. So logic or design flaw, right? So logic slash design flaw, right? So for these, let's say the vendor is Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft vendor has you know uh, 12 logical design, and then Apple had 10. So which company is more, which vendor is more secure? Obviously Apple, right? So we need to analyze or bring data something like that. Okay, so I will be, this would be our end goal. All right, so I will close this window right now. So since we have removed, like, what we did is we we removed column so far. We made the first header as the first column, so we have the column name right now, and then we removed some column and we renamed some column. Now if you look at the example I showed you, we just have 3 columns. So we have to get rid of all the columns, so we have to remove all the other column data. Okay, so for that I have an option either to remove one by one, or I can remove, let's say that there are 3 columns to remove, right? So you can either go here and click on remove, right? So it will remove this column. But assume that there are 100 columns like that in a company. So it will be difficult for us to do one by one, right? So we have an option over here. Power BI gives us, so if you click on home and then choose column, so click on choose column. So it is asking us, out of all these columns, which are the columns we want to keep. That means which are the column we don't want to delete. So in my case, I want to have, like, I want to keep this column, CV, vendor, and then type. So these are the columns I want. Remaining column I want to delete it, because as I told you that for our purpose, our analysis purpose, these are the only columns we needed. And then we will be from these columns we will be applying some kind of more cleaning to get the result, the actual outcome, which is like the type, vendor, and the value. Okay, so I have to keep this column, I have to remove this column, so I will click on OK. So right now you see that all the columns are being removed here, and we have 3 columns: CVE, vendor, and type. Okay, so now the thing is, we have these 3 columns: CVE, vendor, and type. So what we want right now is, so if you look at this, right, we have Apple, we have Google, we have Microsoft, right, and then we have the type over here, the type correction. So the next thing what we do in Power BI is called pivot. So for example, I will show you this. Okay, so here we have, like, Apple, let's say we have a vendor, and then we have a type. So we have a vendor and we have a type and we have month. Okay, so for example, here we have January, Feb, and March. Okay, so March, and then type, again same thing: memory corruption, and so forth and so. And vendor is Apple. So if you look at this one, right, January, February, and March, I want to know in January, in February, and in March, how many times memory corruption has happened. So if you see here, these are the row, right? And we have to convert this row into columns, or like this. So for that, we have to do something called pivot, Pivot. So we have to pivot some column, and then we can get some kind of like count. So for example, let's say that you want to get a count how many memory corruption has happened in January. So for that, we have to go for the pivot option. So we will do that. So for that, to pivot that, what we will do is close this one and do not save. So we have to, for pivoting, what we have to do is click on this one, this column, right, and go to transform, and here we have to click on. So for example, once we click on pivot column, so pivot column, okay, and how we should be pivoting. So we should be pivoting as a CVE. So that is the column, and then we want to get the count. So that's why you can select the count from here. For example, you want to get like the which vendor has the maximum corruption, then you can go for maximum, minimum, or you can aggregate a lot of other stuff. Okay, so I clicked here, values column, and then aggregate value function. So I count all and clicked here. Now you see, right? So now the thing is, you see here the type. So this, so what has happened is we have a type. So these are the security threat types like information leak, logic design and flow, memory corruption, and we have a row for Apple, we have a row for Google, we have a row for Microsoft, all the other vendors. So for example, for Apple, right, how many times there was an information leak? 2. How many times it was for Microsoft? 8, right? So now what you look at, if you look at this data, right, what we did is we had the row and we have converted that row to columns, which I discussed with you, right? That is called the pivoting actually. Okay, but now our goal is to get, like, for example, Apple, Microsoft, and so now the data is like this. Okay, understand this. Okay, so now the data is type, and then we have Apple, and then we have Google, and then let's say we have Microsoft, right? So we have Microsoft. So type, let's say the type is, for example, this is the type, memory corruption. Okay, memory corruption, and the type is race condition. Okay, so here race condition, right? So let's say that Apple did that for 2 times, Google did that for 3 times, Microsoft did that for 5 times. Okay, and then so we have the race condition. So this was done 32 times by Apple and 40 times by Google, and then Microsoft did that for 20 times. Okay, now the thing is, if you look at this data, we have type, and then Apple, Google, and Microsoft is the vendor. Okay, so we have the vendor and the value, it's 32. So out from this one, we want to get some data like this. Okay, we want, so if you look at this one, for all the vendors, there are separate columns for Apple, Google, and Microsoft. So what we want at the end result is this one. Okay, so what we want is this. So we want to have like type, and then we want to have all the all the Apple, Google, and Microsoft, everything is vendor, right? So we want to have vendor like this, and then we can go for value. Okay, So in that way, we don't have multiple columns for a vendor. Okay, so for example, if it was like, let's say, memory corruption, right, then we will click here, and then we can go for memory corruption, Apple, right? So Apple, and then Microsoft. So this is Apple, and then value was 20, right? And then it is a race condition, right? Race condition. Okay, so the race condition, and then it was again by Apple. Forget about my um, typing, and then 30. For example, it is Microsoft, and here it is 40. Right, so let's say that if you want to know which vendor does good at the memory corruption, right? So what we can do is we can look at this value, right, and then determine. So for example, there were 20 times when the Apple did something called memory was corrupted when they used the Apple browse, Apple product, okay, in iOS or the Mac. And when they use the Microsoft product, it was the 40 time. Okay, and then if we want to know like how many errors we have for Apple, right, so we can sum this value. So that's the benefit of converting all the columns into row. Okay, so first what we did is we first pivoted the column. So what we did is we have converted the row to column, right? Now we will do the other way. So what we will do is we will convert all the columns to row. So for that, what you have to do is there are two things you can do. So first, you can select all the columns, right, which you want to unpivot. Okay, and then here you can click on unpivot column, or you can click on transform, and transform, or maybe you can click on transform and then unpivot column. So they will ask you like which column to unpivot, right? So I have selected already the column, or you can give it here like unpivot only selected column, and or if you want to unpivot the other column which is not selected, then you can select this option. So I will click on unpivot column. Okay, now if you look at this example right now, then you understand right now what I'm talking about, correct? So what we were talking about was this one. We wanted to have this outcome where we have a type, uh, which is a security threat type, and then we have a vendor. So here this column name is attribute, so we have to rename this column, and then we have a value. Okay, so for example, if this column we want to rename this column, right? I told you how to rename this column. So to rename this column, what you can do is either right click on this column name at the top and click on rename, or else you can double click here, double click, and then rename the column. So I want this column name to be a vendor. Okay, vendor column, right? Now the column name is vendor. Okay, now we can do all the filterings. Okay, so for example, if we want to know all the values for Apple, okay, all the errors, all the security threat type for Apple, so we can select it from here. Okay, or we can do a lot of we can develop lot of complex transformation going forward, but I want to make it simple for this introductory session. Okay, so for Apple, if you click on these values, right, you get the sum of it. We have an option to get the sum that we can do. Okay, so for a time being, I'm selecting everything. All right, I'm selecting everything. So now the thing is, now we have the data in the format we wanted. So for example, if we want to know right now that how many times memory was corrupted, all we can do over here is select, uh, go here, just a second, and then, oh, am I doing something wrong? Okay, I have to select the column, and then hold on, it is something with my browser, but never mind. I will whatever it is, come here and try this one more time. Text filter. Okay, so you see here memory corruption. Okay, so inside the memory corruption, right, uh, how many time it was corrupted by Apple, right? It is 22, correct? So this was the report we wanted to extract. Okay, that was our end goal. Now if you look at this data, we have to do some more work. Okay, so when I say some more work, right, um, then what I mean by that is, let's say that this error is unspecified, right? This is use after free. Okay, so we know for sure whatever there is there with the question mark, those are the invalid entries. Okay, so we can remove all the rows where the type is uh, like this one, question mark. Okay, so we can remove all the rows, right? So for example, okay, so for that, how we can do that right now is select this question mark, right? And then we can select this data, or we have, so these are the unknown errors by all the vendors, right? So either we can replace this with a value, or either we can delete this. Okay, so we can filter like that. So for time being, I will let it be like this. Okay, now I want to show you something. So this was on a high level a demo of how to use Power BI desktop. This, as I told you, this is an introductory demo, and I want you, if you are watching this video, I want you to practice this along with me. Okay, I showed you all the steps how to download, so I request you to practice it by yourself, and for that I will provide you the data set which I have used. So but before I do that, to just have all the changes in this file, right, what we have to do is click on close and apply. So that's how you close that. Okay, so you have the data model right now. Okay, the browser data. Okay, so you click here, so once you click here on the table view, right, we can see that inside the table view we have, I mean, not to make you complicated, but just giving you some info. So here, if you see on the home page, right, we have our data. We have our data. Okay, and in the next videos, we will be exploring in detail about all these options, how to explore it one by one, like how to remove the columns, how to add column, how to unpivot it, how to calculate values for the column in the next session. Okay, so for time being, I am gonna upload this. Okay, upload. So the first thing is, I will once I stop the recording, then what I'm going to do is share this data set which I have used in the session, right, and then this report with you. So let me do that. uh, Wait, how do I do that? Okay, so recent documents, or maybe I have to save this, right? So okay, so save, and then I want to give a location, right? So you can save this as a I want to save like Power BI, Power BI session 1, and then inside this document, inside this, oh no, okay. So you can either from file, I think this would be able to, okay, never mind, how I can share it. So we can send this to the personal email, but you can download it on, once we have this data, browser data, and then home table browser data, then we can save this recent location. Okay, so we can save this as Ajay, or maybe Power BI report, and it is an extension called PVIBX. So I will click on save. Perfect. So we have saved this report. Right now I will show you where I'm going to upload like the data. So it's up to you where you want to access it. If you can access it from my GitHub profile. So here I have a repository specifically for Power BI. So let me go to that data analysis project. So inside this Power BI we have the README document. I have not uploaded anything yet. So what I would do is provide, go to Gmail. So what I will do, yeah, so what I'm going to do right now is stop the recording, and then I can upload this in a Drive, Google Drive, and I will share the link with you. So in that way you can get started using Power BI. And thank you so much for watching this video. And if you feel like this information was helpful, then please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and share it with everybody who wants to learn. Thank you.